Power doesn't suffer the same fate as housing in our previous conversation, but Gimba has
what fate did it suffer?
That's a question for you. The fact that we never have enough time to talk about housing, now it seems that we're running out of time for power as well. Gimba, quickly.
Yes, my question to you, Mr. Minister, is that a lot of people are really concerned about prepaid meters and the metering system as a whole, and trying to look at how that payment of a fixed billing system works all together in one big pie. But you have taken a stance on that, and you have gone ahead to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, procure a metering device, we understand. What is that metering device about to achieve for you as a ministry and for the power sector?
No, I think you're mixing it all up, Gimba. I didn't procure a metering device, and if you're referring to the automatic meter reading apparatus that Federal Executive Council approved about 2 weeks ago,
precisely,
that is for TCN. TCN provides service to the GENCOs and the DISCOs as a transporter of power. At every point in the value chain, from when the gas is supplied to the GENCO to when the electricity reaches your house, there's a meter at every point. So the meter we're talking about in that approval are bulk meters, meters between GENCOs and TCN, and meters between TCN as the transporter of bulk power to the DISCO feeders at the injection substations. Because everybody needs to be settled, and you are settled based on what you deliver. And so what that machine does is to enable remote monitoring. At the moment, a sizable number of the meters have to be inspected manually and read, and that causes delay in the settlement system. And delay in the settlement system creates liquidity challenges. So that metering system, metering reading system, is for bulk meters. They must be distinguished very clearly from retail meters, which consumers use to settle their accounts with DISCOs. And that is quite another matter entirely. And I think I made this clear when I briefed the press after that Federal Executive Council meeting.
If I could jump in and ask, to follow up on Gimba's question, is what exactly is the NERC expected to do when you directed them to act to get the DISCOs to fulfill the obligation concerning metering and stopping estimated billing? So what are they expected to do specifically?
There are many things that NERC can do, and one of the obligations and contracts between BP and NERC and the DISCOs are that certain number of meters will be supplied under contract. That's a contractual obligation. So if a contractual obligation inures in my favor, I should be able to go and enforce it. There are also statutory and regulatory obligations, which are conditions for the grant of the license by NERC to the DISCOs. Under the terms of their license, there are things that they are supposed to do. And within the law, there are things that NERC as a regulator can and should do if a licensee is not fulfilling the terms of that license. So nobody in this system is helpless, whether BPE or NERC. BPE is the contracting party, not the Ministry of Power. NERC is the regulatory authority, not the Minister of Power. For example, Sections 73 and 74 provide NERC with very clear powers to amend a license, to withdraw or revoke a license for non-compliance. That is NERC's job, to exercise its powers when it feels that certain things are not being done. But the exercise of the discretion and the power to withdraw a license is something that must be done very, very reluctantly and only as a last resort in the ultimate public interest. The other things that they can do insist that they must recapitalize, for example, and fund the supply of meters and distribution equipment to take power to people. So it's just the purpose of that briefing was to tell everybody, go and do your job.
Well, I definitely know that, you expect more from the DISCOs, and we'll be talking about that when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing is still with us, and it's a tight call now to know which question to take, considering how much time we have left. But quickly, you know, you have your issues with discourse, and I'm hoping that we'll have to discuss that further, in further conversations. But let's quickly talk about this issue, state police, which you have always been passionate about. You have always recommended, you've always believed that, you know, states must have their own police system. Are you happy with the manner in which the National Assembly is going about it, or do you think that what we see could portend danger?
First of all, I don't have issues with the discourse. I want them to take on responsibility for their customers who call me, who text me about problems. I think that's customer service. That's not the job of the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing. That's the job of the service provider. As far as state police is concerned, I have written enough, I have said enough. I think that first is a good step that there is a new bill seeking to address it. But the point to also make, and this is part of the commentary and the conversation that comes into public state, we want state police. No, we already have state police. And nobody should deny that. Almost every state government has one law enforcement apparatus or the other. Whether in Lagos, I can tell you about Kai, I can tell you about LASMA. They are law enforcement. That's what police does. Policing is enforcement. So there are law enforcement for traffic offenses, there are law enforcement for sanitation and environmental offenses. Then you have the neighborhood watch. And they are like the neighborhood vigilante collecting information. So I think what is important is to stop hiding behind the finger and looking for state police. States fund police. I funded them as governor. Many other states are still funding them. What is important is to put together a legislative framework around which all of these things can operate. It already exists. We should stop living in denial.
Yeah, but what people want is one that is more effective. Perhaps one that will be, you know, I mean, there's definitely a difference.
Excuse me, what we did in Lagos was effective.
And police.
We had bank robberies at least once a week, sometimes twice, without response. We ended that. We didn't create a new police force. I went to President Yadu and I said, look, I have people here who are at risk and all of that. I said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to import guns and I want to import ammunition. He called his NSA and said, look, is this possible? He said, yes. But we won't give it to you. I said, you don't need to give me the weapons. Give it to the Inspector General of Police, but make sure he reassigns them back to my state. We got that, and then patrol vehicles, we called out people. People started donating vehicles, money, and every year we held an AGM to show this was what we were doing with your money, in order to encourage people to continue to fund. But it wasn't the public alone that was funding. Government was funding. But the public commitment was a rallying cry. And talk about intelligence. What is intelligence? And there are two ways to get intelligence in the global world that we live in. One is to have a police state where everybody is monitoring what everybody does. That's not what we want in our democracy. We don't like that. We had a semblance of that during the dictatorship days, when all of us were speaking in muted voices. Intelligence is actually you and I, who is willing to share information with the police.
So the meat of the matter is this.
What are the traditional institutions and the local governments and the neighborhood watches and all of the vigilantes doing?
Honorable Minister, let me get your thoughts, you know.
My thoughts are being expressed in the way that I can express them.
Very clearly now. Are you saying that we don't need another body as being legislated upon by the National Assembly?
I didn't say so. So please understand me. I said the legislation is welcome, but that the conversation we're having, we want state police, has taken us further away from solving the problem. And that state police actually already exists. That is my opinion. And it is based on what is happening. People are setting up one structure or the other to collect revenue, to do this, to enforce laws and all of that. Put a legislative framework around that so that everybody knows what to expect from state to state. And to that extent, that intervention is welcome. But we should have a knowledgeable conversation really about what is happening, rather than getting people, when we talk about security, all we talk about is law enforcement.
I'm afraid.
Security, law enforcement. But really and truly, let me make this point. I will take your point. Let me make this point. Law enforcement, bringing policemen, means that you are only seeking to enforce law. What secures us really is peace. Do the people want peace? Have they resolved to live together in peace?
Big question to ask, and it's a fine way to leave the conversation. We have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Mr. Babatunde Fashola, SAN, is the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, and he's been talking to us on a number of issues this morning. That's why we leave Sunrise Daily. It's been wonderful seeing your questions. We're going to send as much of it as we can to his office, and hopefully they should find a way to send you answers. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. I am Ajuri Ingilale.
I don't want to tell you how Gimba is feeling right now, but what we will do is we'll bring the minister back. We'll have to. There's so many questions and things that people will need information about. So we'll work towards getting him back to speak on those matters. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Thanks for watching. I'm Gimba Omar. Bye for now.
Yeah.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.